before we get out of here, Brett, the NHL, we only have 3 games listed in Oregon on Wednesday night as we look into Thursday.
We don't have next Tuesday's game out yet. What
No.
is the Oregon doing?
And all of these games, all 3 games are only for Thursday too. We only have Thursday's games, so I'm not going to be an oracle, predict ahead of the future or anything like that, but Brett, we do have some interesting things going on with the NHL schedule coming up that we'll talk about in a little bit after I give my pick. But in the Western Conference, or in the Western Division, the Kings are visiting the Avalanche. And I'm going to take the Kings plus 1.5 at plus 115 here. Partly because these two teams are playing tonight already. The Avs are destroying the Kings tonight. It's 6-0 at the end of the second period as we're recording this. Makes me think the Avs could potentially either overlook the Kings in the next game, rest some players in the next game as the Avs prepare to actually go on to the playoffs. The Kings will not. But if you look at how these teams have played each other on the year so far, excluding tonight's game, they had played 6 other times this season. 3 of those games, a plus 1.5 would have covered. So it's a 50-50 shot for me. The Avs got their goals out of the way on Wednesday night, so I think on Thursday night it's going to be a little bit of a closer game. Give me the Kings at that plus 115 money, I think.
All right, yeah, I gotta be honest, Higgins. The NHL right now is just a complete blind spot for me. It's just been all Mets winning streaks and the NBA playoff race, and unfortunately, I only have so many screens. So I wish I could say something about the Kings and Avs, but I would just be an uninformed, wild take that I'd be reading something off a screen. So I'm gonna trust the numbers you laid out. I like your reasoning. I think teams that get blown out always come back with a little more juice the night after. I think that totally makes a ton of sense, Higgins. So all the logic would point to the Kings tomorrow night. I agree with all of it, but it's sports gambling, and if it was that easy, there would not be casinos in a desert. These huge resort casinos in the desert.
Very, very true. But if you look at the ATS data, it also kind of backs up my point here as well. The Avs are the 3rd worst team in the NHL against the puck line so far this season. Now, most of that is because of their play on the road. They're an abysmal 9-19 on the road. But the Avalanche are also 500 at home. They're 13-13 against the puck line at home. So they cover on Wednesday night. Data says they don't cover on Thursday night. Especially when you look at the Kings are actually the 5th or 6th best team against the spread in the NHL. Have a winning record on the road at 14-12. It's going to be 14-13 after tonight. So I expect a rebound game on Thursday. Whether it matters or not for the Kings doesn't play a big part in this to me because both of these teams have really locked up a lot of their playoff and postseason potential right now. I think it's just a back-to-back scenario where it's not going to happen twice.
Right. No, it makes a lot of sense. But you mentioned that something kind of crazy is happening, Higgins, and I think it's absolutely insane that the NHL playoffs are starting, and Vancouver's just going to be playing until what, next Tuesday, Higgins?
Next Wednesday.
Oh, okay, yeah, Wednesday. So, I mean, what I know it's because of COVID-19. The Canucks had a 3-week pause. They had a serious COVID outbreak amongst the team, but that just seems insane. Like, wouldn't you just delay the postseason a few days or try and squeeze these games in or say, hey, our playoffs are kind of set here. We don't even need to really play these games.
Yeah, so looking at the remaining NHL schedule as I look at it on ESPN right now, we have 3 games on Thursday, regular season games, 1 regular season game on Friday. That's between Toronto and Winnipeg. Most of these games are North games, by the way, that are still left. Most of these are Canadian games that are left. Then on Saturday, we have 1 regular season game between the Vancouver Canucks in Edmonton. But then we also have the beginning of the NHL playoffs with the Boston Bruins facing off against the Washington Capitals in the first round of the Eastern Division playoffs. Sunday, Vancouver hosts Calgary. And then, oh, I'm sorry, you were right. It is Tuesday is the final game. Calgary plays again in Vancouver to end the NHL regular season. But
On
it's
the
so
fourth day
strange.
of the NHL playoffs, the NHL season finally ends.
By the way, we have no other playoff scheduling besides this one Bruins Capitals game.
I just don't know what we're doing here, Higgins. Like,
What are we doing?
how did no one call the NHL and was like, hey, this is really confusing. Like, maybe we should do it a different way. Yeah, you summed it up best. We have one playoff game scheduled. We got 3 regular season games going on after the playoffs start. The playoffs are set. The NHL, man, just a wild way to finish off your season here. Probably the most confusing end to a season I've ever witnessed in my life. So, at least they got that going for them.
At least they got that going for them, which is nice.
Yeah.
But it's just Gary Bettman being Gary Bettman, the NHL being the NHL. It's an entertaining sport, but they do things in a weird manner. Even when they were coming out with their COVID season last summer, they held their cards so close to the chest, no one knew what was going on. So I'm not necessarily surprised we don't understand what's going on with this. It's just absurd. It's just absurd.
Yeah, it's certainly weird.